Virginia Plan, otherwise known as the Large Estate Plan, was written by James Madison in 1787. It was written because the people from the larger states did not like the idea of equal representation. They thought that the states with a larger population should have a bigger vote. Basically, they believed that the number of representation should be based on the population of the state. This plan proposed a strong government, and two governments would govern the people. It would have a federal system, and the national government would have the power to make and enforce. The plan also wanted to divide the government into three branches: legislative, executive, and judicial.
The New Jersey Plan, otherwise known as the Small State Plan, was written by William Paterson. It followed the structure of the Articles of Confederation, and it favored a weak national government. It would have one house, and each state would have equal representation. Congress would have the power to collect taxes, levy fines, and collect money from the state. Congress, under this plan, could also regulate trade among the states. The people in the smaller states wanted equal representation because they feared that the larger states would have more control in the national government. Equal representation would propose that every state, no matter what size, would have the same number of representatives in the Congress. The New Jersey Plan proposed the executive and judicial branches of government. The executive branch members were appointed by Congress. The executive branch was in charge of appointing the members of the Supreme Court.
The Virginia and New Jersey plans still did not resolve the problem of representation in Congress. Roger Sherman, who was a delegate from Connecticut, proposed the Great Compromise. The Great Compromise was a great solution because it combined these two very different plans into something that would work for everyone. Combining the plans would mean that Congress would have two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. In the House of Representatives, the membership would be based on proportional representation. They would have the power to develop all the bills pertaining to government's spending and taxes. A bill is a proposed law. In the Senate, membership would be based upon equal representation. When they first started, the Senate only had the power to reject and accept bills relevant to taxes and spending passed in the House of Representatives. Their power was later changed so that the Senate could make changes to the bills involving taxes and spending written in-house. In this compromise, each side didn't get exactly what they wanted. They both gave up some, but they both received some. This is true in all compromises. Yes, we think that the Great Compromise was a great idea because it formed our Congress.
So, what do you think the advantages and disadvantages of equal representation are?
I think that equal representation, one side may not be as happy because they may not get one thing that they wanted to have in their branch.
Equal representation would be helpful because each state, it would be easier to tally for, say, a vote on whatever, but at the same time, while the people feared and wanted the small state plan, some people would not get their voices entirely heard just because of the disadvantage that they are a smaller state.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of proportional representation?
In proportional, I think the advantages would be that both sides would be equal. Not equal, but they would both get their say, but the disadvantages would be having two different sides and having two different opinions about
Okay. So we had this compromise and they both had to give up. Who won on the Great Compromise? Like, who got the better end of the deal out of the Great Compromise, you think?
Personally, I would say the large state plan, because since that was basically Senate would have a lot of power over House of Representatives, which would have been the small state plan, and such as if there was a tie during the election, they would House of Representatives would only be able to elect the vice president, and Senate would be able to vote for the president.
So, I guess looking back at with the compromise that happened and then looking at today, do you think that we have a strong federal government now, or do we have a weak federal government?
I think that we have a strong government now because we don't have like other countries like have today about how they're not giving any power to the people, and I think we have a stronger government because we're
Okay, why did the small states want equal representation?
I think because the large state plan had a bigger number of people, so I think they'd like equal representation, so more people wouldn't really.
They would rather size up equal votes because if the smaller states had the same say as larger states, they would be able to have a rather effective say in big decision making. So if Virginia would have voted for a certain law or whatever, and then say Connecticut or Rhode Island voted against it, and if Rhode Island had more votes with it, they would
Why do you think the large states wanted the proportional?
So that they would have more power for, because if they had proportional, it would matter on the number of size of people that they had in there.
Can you tell me, how do you think this plays out today? How do you think it plays out today that we have the House of Representatives and the Senate, we have these two bodies that are based on different representation? Do you think it's effective today? Do you think this model that they came up with 200 years ago is still effective today?
I think that it's still effective today. Back then, the law was new. I think that it's still effective today.
I would say it is effective because with the people voting, and it is a legislative branch, the Senate is basically what the Founding Fathers believe would be the somewhat oligarchy side for the aristocrats and the higher wealthy class, and then they believe that the House of Representatives would be more for the lower people class and would represent more of a democracy because there is more people, more representation, and that would help a lot in modern times. And since it still has a say because there is still the wealthy class, the high class, and then the middle and lower classes, which can sometimes be controversial, but it has helped.
So, which body, the House or the Senate, do you think that rural populations have a greater voice in? Rural as in small populations, small towns, as opposed to big
The
towns.
sticks.
The sticks of the city.
And there's not a right or wrong.
There's not a right or wrong answer.
Could you repeat the question?
So, which body, the House or the Senate, do you think that rural populations have a greater voice in?
I'd say House of Representatives because, as I said, Senate is more for the wealthy people, and while there are wealthy people out in the rural areas, such as estates or plantations, but still, it would be House of Representatives because there's more representation, and then their voices would be heard first through the House of Representatives, and then maybe heard through Senate, but their influence, they would have more influence in the House of Representatives.
I think that's it.
You got 15 seconds.
That's all right.
There you go.
Thank you.
So, Reese and Madison, thank you so much. You were in an unenviable position, and you did a beautiful job. You poised you out. which is phenomenal. I just think you did a good job, and I don't know if I have a criticism, because you just were in an unenviable position. I really liked the use about the word oligarchy, though. I wasn't expecting that, so that was kind of a little, I was like, ooh, so, but thank you.
I think you did wonderful. I hope your other team members are okay and they can get here quickly. But obviously, having not prepared for this at all and not coming here today and not expecting to have to present on that question, I greatly appreciate your effort. You did a wonderful job. For, having not prepared thoroughly, you have an understanding of the issue, and I appreciate it.
And I would love to see you give the question if you had had time to prepare, because your facial expressions and your tone are awesome considering you weren't prepared. And I saw, your face moving, and I think if you had had time to prepare, that would have been one of the best presentations as far as your tone and your expressiveness. But again, having not prepared for it, that was pretty great.
You were both calm, cool, and collective, given the situation.
Yeah, if you hadn't told us, we probably would not have known.
Yeah.
That's what was going on, and that says a lot, especially for you at your age.
Yeah.
So,
Well
that's
done.
great.
Love to see you when you were in high school doing this.